Do you like to play elves? Do you like to play planeswalkers who no longer have their spark? Well, then I have a deck tech for you today. This is Veil, the Chain Veil MTG, and today I'm bringing you a deck tech over Tyvar the Bellicose. Tyvar the Bellicose is a 2 black and a green 5/4 elf warrior that says when one or more elves you control attack, they gain Death Touch to end the turn. So already it's a very aggressive deck based on that first line. The second line says each creature you control has, whenever a mana ability of this creature resolves, put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the amount of mana this creature produced. This ability triggers only once each turn. So with this commander, every single one of our dorks, we disable tabs real quick, sorry about that. Every single one of our dorks in this deck, when they tap for mana each turn, they will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Meaning we have some very, very large elves on the board. So we are running Tyvar in the command zone. We are running 3 planeswalkers, ironically 2 of which are Tyvar. Tyvar Jubilant Brawler is a very good haste enabler with the ability to untap some creatures and bring some creatures back from the graveyard. Tyvar Kell is a very good elf lord in the form of a planeswalker. Freyle's Landmar's Fury, also a very good elf lord in the form of planeswalker and has some built-in removal and card draw. Some of our big creatures you'll see are Birchclaw Rangers. This guy gets very big, very fast. Cooper Horn Scout. So we want all our creatures to be very big. With this guy on board, we are able to attack first with all our dorks, tap them for mana after they've attacked to get untapped, and makes them bigger and bigger. Elves Deep Shadow is one of the best dorks in Golgari. Elvis Mystic, Finhorn Elves, Landwear Elves, they're all very good 1-drop dorks. Essence Warden is a way for us to keep our life totals up because it's also an elf that's just very good. Heritage Druid is a way to get more and more elves, more and more mana from our elves, even they don't have haste. Kieran Ranger, Wirewood Symbiote are ways to untap creatures we control. Bloodline Shaman is a card from Onslaught that I hadn't seen until recently, but in this deck it is very, very good. With this deck, it's very, very good source of card draw because we are running 55 creatures, all of which are majority of which are elves. Besides, I think Wirewood Symbiote is one of the only non-elf creatures in the whole deck. Branch of Ward Paragon gives creatures with 1/1 counters on the trample, and our commander also gives a lot of 1/1 counters, so that's very, very good. Destiny Spinner, in a world where blue magic exists, we have to be able to pick our creature spells. This is one of the best ways on a budget to do it. Elvish Clancaller is a 2-mana lord. In our format, EDH, the second effect doesn't really matter because we're a singleton format. Elvish Visionary is simply a elf that draws his cards. Elvish Warmaster is a very good elf that cares about ETPs of other elves to make tokens, and also is a very good mana dump. So with all the mana we're reducing, it will help us get a very large buff to our armies. Golgari Guildmage, it's a mana dump that cares about 1/1 counters or recursion. Gyre Sage. I believe personally Gyre Sage is the best card in this deck with our commander because every turn it's going to make more and more mana and to get out of hand very quickly. Incubation Druid I really like because so when we cast Incubation Druid, it only taps for 1. After the first turn we tap Incubation Druid for mana, it now becomes a 3-mana dork. And if worse comes to worse, our commander's blown up and we can't really use it, we can instead pay the adapt 3 costs. Leaf Crown Visionary. Elves make a lot of mana. When we cast an elf spell, we may pay green to draw cards really good, and it's a very good lord. Priest of Titania, one of the most broken elves in all of Magic. This card will produce so much mana each turn and get so big of our commander. Shahali Wayfinder is more ways to get more creatures. The downfall of elves, when you cast a lot of spells, your hand gets empty pretty fast. This is one of the spells that helps us refill our hands. Wildborn Preserver it plays into our 1/1 counter themes and it's got reach so it can block flyers, and it gets very big very quickly. Abomination of Llanowar. This card is simply amazing in this deck. We are running 55 creatures. I believe 53 of them are elves, meaning it played early game, it will grow and get bigger and bigger. Played late game, it will come in big and hit hard. Deepwood Denizen. Normally that 5 and a green is a heavy cost to pay to draw a card. However, in this deck, most of the time when we're activating this to draw a card, it will cost 1 green. Elvish Art Druid. It is a very good lord. Taps for a lot of mana and will get big itself. Elvish Champion. It is a lord effect that gives some form of movability around the field with the ability to give Forest Walk. Elves Harbinger. While yes, it's not a very good dork, it makes up for that fact with its ability to tutor for an elf. So let's say we need a big creature, we can get Abomination of Llanowar, or we need a lord, we can get Elvish Champion or something like that. Evolution Sage. While yes, it doesn't tap for mana, we have run so many planeswalkers, so we have so much 1/1 counter synergies that when land ETBs perfectly, it's a big deal. Exiliar Renegade Leader. This guy is one of the best mono green commanders in the elves because of how much mana dumping it has. Makes perfect sense in this deck. Glissa Sunslayer. First strike Death Touch Phyrexian Zombie Elf. When it deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card, destroy enchantments, or remove 3 counters from target permanent. It's a really good way to draw cards, has some removal built in, or if we're playing against other counter decks, we can remove them. Gwenna, Eye of Gaia, is a very good dork that after it gets an activation of 1 time, it is a 4/5 for 3 mana, which is really, really good. Sadly, her bottom ability doesn't happen very often in this deck, but in later iterations with some upgrades, we may be able to get some more untapping with her. Harrowed Kin of Skinfar. He came out in Kaldheim. He's a very good elf card in Standard, if I remember correctly. But a big thing is when ETBs, we get to review an elf, or warrior, or a Tyvar card from among the cards that we reveal, put the rest in the bottom random order. Meaning, if we hit most of our deck as elves, so we hit any of those, we get them. Most of our planeswalkers are Tyvars, which means we can get them. And worst comes to worst, some of our non-elves are warriors. Imperious Perfect is another great lord that also makes tokens, so we can go wide instead of going tall. Jagsguard Archers. This is one of the ways I have to deal with flyers, because flyers are scary against this deck. We don't have a lot of flyer removal or reach, so what we do, we gotta be able to kill them. Llanowar Tribe. This card speaks for itself. The turn after it comes in, it's going to, with our commander on board, it will double its power. Lysana Bowmaster is another way to deal with those pesky flyers. It's not as good as Jagsguard Archers, however, it is it's going to do a lot of damage to flyers. Marwyn the Nurturer. This card is going to be insane in this deck. I think this card here can give Gyre Sage a run for its money. Simply for the fact that it gets bigger with elves. I think Marwyn's going to draw more hate because of that, and that's why I think Gyre Sage is so good in this deck. Realm Walker. While yes, it's technically not an elf, it is because it's changeling. The fact that it gives us the ability to cast elves off the top of our library, and there's a good chance there's going to be multiple elves in a row on top of our library, and I believe that is why it's so good in this deck. Recollection Sage, it's a way to remove enchantments or artifacts. They're pesky, they're hard to get rid of. This helps with getting rid of them. Riskar is another 1/1 counter matter elf. He's an elf that cares about 1/1 counters, and if it has 1/1 counters, it turns all our elves, even the ones that don't have mana abilities, into mana dorks. Verdant Joiner is another one of those elves that is going to go out of hand. It gives us so much mana in this deck because its ability fuels itself with the commander. Beast Whisperer is more card draw. We have a lot of creatures. We cast a lot of them. It's going to be a way for us to keep our hand nice and full. Canopy Tactician is another one of those elves that it almost pays for itself the first activation you get. It becomes a 6/6 Animal Lord after 1 activation. It's going to be really good in this deck. Dwayne Glitley Dayan, I believe that you say that. It has reach, so there's no way to block flyers. It's an elf lord. When it attacks, you gain a whole lot of life. We're playing a very aggressive deck, and so the more life we have, the longer we stay around. Golgari Decoy. This guy here is neat for us because, let's say this player to my right is going to be very, very scary, and we have enough damage on board to kill them. However, they have way too many blockers. With Golgari Decoy, it's a way for us to swing in, force the blocks we want, and get the damage we need. Immaculate Magistrate is going to be very big in this deck, so we care so much about 1/1 counters and elves. It just combines the best of both worlds. Lathril, Blade of Elves. Lathril is another very good Golgari elf commander. And while yes, it's not in the command zone, it's still really good. It still cares about elves. It's got to go on the deck. Lynn's Huntmaster is just a way to go wide some more. When we cast an elf spell, make a 1/1 green elf, which means even if our spell doesn't resolve, our army is building. Null Mage Shepherd is another way of removal. We're making a lot of tokens. We're making a lot of elves. Might as well use those elves to remove some pesky artifacts and enchantments. Skimfare Shadow Stage is an ability to either A, really hurt some of our opponents, or B, gain a whole lot of life, whatever is needed. Sylvan Messenger, and this deck is very, very good. ETB reveals the top 4 cards of the library, put all elf cards revealed this way back in your hand, the rest in the bottom of the random order. We're running 55 creatures, 52 or 53 of them are elves. The odds of us hitting 2 to 4 elves off the top is very, very good. Wirewood Channeler is another very large creature. Makes a lot of mana creature that's going to make itself very, very large as well. And the benefit over this over Priest Titania, while yes, Priest Titania costs less mana to cast, Wirewood Channeler can make green or black mana pretty easily. Ruthless Winnower, it's a way for us to keep our creatures count higher than our opponents by making them sack non-elves. Wolverine Riders, this makes us a whole lot of elves, and we get some life gain. On to the sorceries. Bounty Skimfar, it's just another way for us to get a lot of more elf cards in our hand. Eye Blight Massacre is a board wipe that's going to leave most of our creatures alive, and that is going to be super good in this deck. Turntable Symbiosis, it's a land on the back, which is really good. It's card advantage, and like I said, the worst comes to worst is MDFC. It taps for a green mana. Instances, we're running a couple. Beast Within, more removal, and one of our ways to get rid of some pesky lands. Kindred Summons, it's a very, very good spell in this deck. We're going to spit up a lot of elves with this. Kamali Ambush, it's a way to get rid of some creatures with like a Gyre Sage that gets really big, and it's a land on the back. Artifacts, we're running 2 of them. We're not running Soul Ring, we're not running Arcane Signet, we're relying on our dorks for that. Throwing the God Pharaoh is going to deal a lot of damage to our opponents when all our dorks are tapped. Angel's Triumph has been errata to say creatures have vigilance, I believe. Let me double check that errata real quick. It's been errata to say all creatures have vigilance. At the beginning of each player's end step, tap all untapped creatures that player controls that didn't attack this turn. Angel's Triumph deals damage to the player equal to the number of creatures tapped this way. It's really going to force people to attack, and hopefully, with our creatures being as big as they are, make them not attack us. Enchantments for rank 5. Hardened Scales is one of the best 1/1 counter enchantments you can possibly have out there. Prowess of the Fair is a way to keep our elf board growing even as elves are dying. Herald Unites the Elves. It's got some recursion, it's got some 1/1 counter themes, and it cares about elves attacking. What more can we want out of a saga? Primal Rage. Our commander gives Death Touch. One of the scariest 2 keywords I've ever seen in the game of Magic is Trample and Death Touch. Crown Scafar. It gives reach, makes the creature very large, and is reusable. Lands, we're running 30 total, including MDFCs. We run so many doors, we can cut back on lands a little bit. Bajuka Bog, to hate those pesky graveyard decks away. Castle Lockwind is a way to draw cards when we're low on cards. Command Tower, it's basically an OG duel in this deck. Pathways, we're running 6 basics. Some big cards I'm a fan of in this deck are Hall of the Bandit Lord. Some more ways to get haste. Layer the Hydra. We can make some really big creatures with this, just based on how much mana we can produce. Memorial Unity, it gets some more card advantage, the cost of the land. Mosswarp Bridge, that 10 power or greater total is going to be super easy to get to. Secluded Courtyard, Unclaimed Territories, they're both basically the exact same card, and both are very good mana at fixing this deck. Tokens, we make 4 tokens in this deck. 3 Beasts from Beast Within, Elf Druids from one of our Planeswalkers, Elf Warriors from multiple of our Elves, and we have Tyvar the Emblem. So, let's do some playtest hands of this deck. Let's see, 1 land, 2 lands, and the odds of us drawing a dork are very high. I'd keep this hand, so we're going to go and play through it. We're going to draw for turn, land for turn, we're going to scry 1. We're going to put that on bottom. Move the bottom of the library. End of turn. Next turn, draw for turn. We're going to play World of Unity. Enters tapped. And we're going to tap for a green. Cast Wirewood Symbiote. And pass the turn. We'll play land for turn, and there's untapped. We have 2 more other lands. We're going to cast Wayfinder. ETB happens, we look at top 4 cards of the library. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going to put one of them into our hands and the rest in the bottom of the random order. We're gonna put, I think we're gonna put Marwyn in our hand. I can't really do random on here, so we're gonna put these on the bottom. Move on to the next turn. Sadly, our land is tapped because we don't have any lands in our hand, but we are going to pay 3 mana and cast Marwyn the Nurturer. This turn, we are going to play with Jukabog, exile someone's library and graveyard, preferably a graveyard player if there is one. We're going to pay 4 mana. We're going to cast our commander. When the ETBs, we're adding a 1/1 counter. Can I add a 1/1 counter? We're going to tap Marwyn for 2 mana. We're going to return this guy to our hand to untap Marwyn. We're going to get 2 mana to cast this guy, putting another counter on Marwyn, and looking at top 4 cards of the library once again. Putting that to the bottom, that to the bottom. And putting Dwindling Glyph Dain into our hand. We are then going to tap for 3 mana using Marwyn. We're going to cast Jaguar Archers. When at ETBs, we add a counter here, and we're going to pass the turn. We draw our land, which is nice. We're going to play Command Tower. We're going to tap for. We're going to start with 2 mana. No, 4 mana. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to cast this one. ETB, add another counter. This hand got very good very quickly. And as you can see, I messed up last turn and didn't even add the counters to Marwyn for Tyvar. With the amount of ramp we have in this deck, I believe this deck can get out of hand quickly. How y'all doing today? This is Vale with the Chain Vale MTG. Motherfucker!